Last Tuesday morning, I watched a 73-year-old woman nearly die in a hospital bed because her doctor trusted the wrong lab results. Margaret Thompson from Phoenix, Arizona, had been taking heart medication for 6 months that she never needed, medication that was slowly poisoning her system and causing the very symptoms her doctor thought he was treating. The terrifying part? This could happen to you next week, and you'd never see it coming. Here's the shocking truth that Big Pharma and most doctors will never tell you. If you're over 60 and preparing for lab tests the way 90% of seniors do, you're essentially playing Russian roulette with your health. Those routine blood draws you've been getting, they might be feeding your doctor completely false information that's leading to dangerous misdiagnoses, unnecessary medications, and treatments that are aging you faster instead of helping you maintain that youthfulness in the elderly you desperately want to preserve. But wait, it gets worse. In my 25 years specializing in integrative health for seniors, I've discovered that the 5 most common mistakes people make before lab tests are so widespread that I'd bet my medical license you've made at least 3 of them in your last blood work. And here's the kicker, your doctor probably has no idea these mistakes are happening, which means they're making life-altering treatment decisions based on numbers that are about as accurate as a broken thermometer. I'm Dr. Michael Harris, and what I'm about to reveal will either save your life or make you furious at how the medical system has been failing you. The story I just told you about Margaret? She's one of hundreds of patients I've seen who were victims of what I call laboratory malpractice, not because anyone intended harm, but because simple preparation errors created a domino effect of wrong diagnoses that nearly killed her. The immune system in old age is already fragile, and when we start medicating problems that don't exist while missing the real issues, we're essentially accelerating the aging process instead of supporting healthy aging. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are probably thousands of seniors taking medications they don't need, avoiding foods that are actually good for them, and living in fear of health conditions they don't even have, all because their lab results were contaminated by easily preventable mistakes. The nutrition for the elderly recommendations you're following, the treatments you're enduring, the autonomy you're losing, it could all be based on false data that's destroying your quality of life instead of enhancing it. Here's what's going to blow your mind. The 5 critical errors I'm about to expose are so simple that once you know them, you'll wonder how the entire medical establishment has overlooked them for decades. But more importantly, you'll never again have to wonder whether your test results are accurate or whether you're being treated for the right conditions. By the end of this video, you'll have the insider knowledge that could literally add years to your life and life to your years. So buckle up, because the first mistake I'm about to reveal involves something you probably did this morning without thinking twice, and it's been sabotaging your health in ways that would shock you. Margaret's story was just the beginning. And what you're about to learn could be the difference between thriving in your golden years or becoming another victim of medical misinformation. Just last month, I had a patient walk into my office completely baffled by her lab results. Margaret, a vibrant 68-year-old from Springfield, Illinois, had been struggling with what seemed like prediabetes for months. Her glucose levels were consistently elevated, and her previous doctor was ready to start her on medication. She swore up and down that she'd been fasting properly for every single blood draw. "Dr. Harris," she said, "I didn't eat a thing for 12 whole hours." But here's where aging healthily becomes tricky. Sometimes what we think we're doing right is actually sabotaging our health. As we dove deeper into her routine, the truth came out. Margaret had been having her morning coffee, just black, mind you, thinking it wouldn't affect anything since there were no calories. She'd grown up in a generation where coffee was considered harmless, practically water. But that innocent cup of joe was triggering her liver to release glucose, completely skewing her results. For someone focused on maintaining health in old age, this kind of mistake can lead to unnecessary medications, worry, and treatments that do more harm than good. The immune system in old age is already working overtime, and adding unnecessary stress from wrong diagnoses certainly doesn't help. This isn't just about following rules. It's about how to be a healthy, elderly person who gets accurate information about their body. When labs give you fasting instructions, they mean absolutely nothing by mouth except plain water. No coffee, no tea, no gum, no mints, nothing. Even that tiny bit of cream in your coffee or that sugar-free gum you're chewing can alter enzyme levels and glucose readings. I've seen too many seniors start down the wrong treatment path because of these harmless little slips. Youthfulness in the elderly often depends on catching real problems early, not chasing phantom ones created by improper testing. The fascinating thing about Margaret's case was how her body was actually functioning beautifully for her age. Once we did proper fasting labs, her glucose levels were completely normal. She didn't need medication at all. Instead, we focused on nutrition for the elderly, and maintaining autonomy as an elderly person through proper health monitoring. She learned that her morning walks in Lincoln Park were actually keeping her metabolism strong, and her homemade Illinois corn chowder recipe, her grandmother's from the 1940s, was providing excellent fiber and nutrients. Sometimes the path to youthfulness isn't about fixing what's broken, it's about not breaking what's already working. But here's what really gets me fired up about cases like Margaret's. How many other seniors are walking around with incorrect diagnoses because of simple preparation mistakes? The ripple effects are enormous when we're talking about immunity in the elderly and long-term health outcomes. Getting accurate baseline numbers is crucial for maintaining health in old age, especially when your body's natural rhythms and metabolism are already changing. What Margaret didn't realize was that her small mistake was just one of several common errors that can completely derail your health journey. And speaking of mistakes that seem harmless but can be downright dangerous. Now, if Margaret's story taught us about doing too little, let me tell you about the opposite extreme that nearly cost Harold his life. This 72-year-old retired teacher from Portland, Oregon, was so determined to get perfect lab results that he fasted for 18 hours and stopped taking his diabetes medication the night before his blood work. He figured he'd show his doctor just how healthy he could be without pills. But when you're focusing on how to maintain autonomy as an elderly person, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is try to prove you don't need help. Harold's well-meaning attempt at aging healthily almost landed him in the ICU with a severe hypoglycemic episode right there in a lab waiting room. The human body, especially as we age, operates on delicate balances that took decades to establish. When Harold skipped his metformin and extended his fast, his blood sugar plummeted to dangerous levels. We're talking about readings that can trigger seizures, strokes, or even comas. His wife, Dorothy, later told me she found him confused and sweating profusely that morning, but he insisted he was fine and drove himself to the lab anyway. This is exactly the kind of scenario that terrifies me about maintaining health in old age, when our desire to appear strong overrides our common sense. The immune system in old age is already working harder to keep us stable, and these extreme measures throw everything out of whack. What Harold didn't understand is that most medications, especially those for chronic conditions like diabetes or heart disease, need to be taken consistently to maintain the very stability that makes accurate testing possible. Stopping blood pressure medications can cause dangerous spikes, skipping heart medications can trigger arrhythmias, and avoiding diabetes drugs can lead to life-threatening sugar swings. I always tell my patients that proper nutrition for the elderly includes taking prescribed medications as part of your daily routine. They're not a sign of weakness. They're tools for youthfulness in the elderly. Think of them like the reading glasses you need to see clearly or the comfortable shoes that keep you walking strong. The irony of Harold's situation was that his perfect lab results were actually useless for medical decision-making. His doctor couldn't assess how well his diabetes management was working because the numbers reflected an artificial state, not his real daily condition. It's like trying to judge a car's performance by testing it with an empty gas tank. You're not getting meaningful information. For someone committed to how to be a healthy elderly person, accurate monitoring is everything. We adjusted Harold's approach, and now he takes his medications as prescribed and fasts for exactly the recommended time. No more, no less. His numbers are stable, his energy is consistent, and he's back to coaching Little League in his Portland neighborhood. But here's what really bothers me about cases like Harold's. They highlight a dangerous trend I'm seeing among health-conscious seniors who think more restriction always equals better results. The truth is, extreme measures often mask the very information we need to keep you healthy and independent. Whether it's fasting too long, stopping medications, or pushing your body beyond reasonable limits, these approaches can backfire spectacularly when it comes to immunity in the elderly. And speaking of pushing limits, there's another common mistake I see that might surprise you. Something most people consider the epitome of healthy living, but timing it wrong can completely sabotage your lab work. You know what I love about my patients? They're incredibly dedicated to staying active and aging healthily. Take Robert, a 69-year-old former Marine from San Diego, California, who never missed his 5 a.m. workout at the local YMCA. Every Tuesday, he'd finish his intense CrossFit session, shower, and head straight to the lab for his quarterly blood work, proud as punch that he was maintaining such discipline. His routine was admirable: deadlifts, burpees, rowing machine intervals that would challenge people half his age. But when his lab results kept showing elevated muscle enzymes that suggested potential heart damage, his previous doctor was ready to order expensive cardiac tests and potentially invasive procedures. What Robert didn't realize was that his dedication to youthfulness in the elderly was actually sabotaging his test results. Here's what happens when you exercise intensely before blood work. Your muscles release enzymes like creatine kinase, lactate dehydrogenase, and troponin into your bloodstream. These are the same markers we use to diagnose heart attacks, muscle disorders, and kidney problems. Robert's morning CrossFit sessions were essentially creating a biochemical signature that looked exactly like serious cardiac distress. His creatinine levels were elevated, making it appear his kidneys weren't functioning properly, when in reality they were just processing the normal byproducts of his excellent workout routine. For someone focused on how to be a healthy, elderly person, this kind of false alarm can lead to unnecessary stress, testing, and treatments that actually compromise the immune system in old age. The fascinating thing about exercise physiology is how our bodies continue to adapt and respond even as we age, but lab values don't always account for this. When Robert lifted those heavy weights, his muscle fibers experienced microscopic tears. That's how muscles grow stronger. But those tiny tears release proteins into the bloodstream that can persist for 24 to 48 hours after exercise. His glucose levels were also affected because intense exercise can cause temporary insulin resistance as muscles recover. I've seen this pattern dozens of times with active seniors who are committed to maintaining health in old age. Their dedication to fitness becomes a diagnostic red herring that leads doctors down the wrong path entirely. What we did for Robert was simple, but revolutionary for his health journey. We scheduled his blood work for Thursday mornings instead of Tuesdays, giving his body a full 48 hours to clear those exercise-induced markers. Suddenly, his heart problems disappeared, his kidney function looked normal, and his glucose metabolism showed the healthy patterns we'd expect from someone with his level of fitness. His real labs revealed what I suspected all along. This was a man whose nutrition for the elderly and exercise routine were actually supporting remarkable youthfulness in the elderly. He was maintaining autonomy as an elderly person beautifully. We just needed to measure it correctly. The bigger picture here is understanding that your body's biochemistry tells a story, but timing matters enormously in how that story reads. Robert's case taught me to always ask about exercise routines when I see unusual lab patterns in active seniors. Now he continues his impressive workout schedule, still deadlifting, still doing those Marine-style workouts that keep him stronger than men decades younger, but he times his blood work strategically. The key to immunity in the elderly isn't just staying active. It's making sure your health monitoring accurately reflects your true baseline. But exercise timing isn't the only surprising factor that can throw off your results. There's something sitting in your medicine cabinet right now that could be causing completely false readings. Picture this. Eleanor, a stylish 71-year-old from Charleston, South Carolina, came to me absolutely devastated because her thyroid levels were all over the map. She'd been taking the same thyroid medication for 15 years with perfect stability, but suddenly her TSH was swinging wildly, and her endocrinologist was talking about doubling her dose or switching medications entirely. Eleanor was terrified. She'd watched her sister struggle with thyroid issues that affected everything from her weight to her energy to her memory. What made this even more puzzling was that Eleanor felt fantastic. She was still tending her famous garden full of Carolina jasmine and camellias, hosting bridge club twice a week, and maintaining the kind of youthfulness in the elderly that made neighbors half her age envious of her energy. The breakthrough came when I asked about her supplement routine. "Oh, Dr. Harris," she said, "I just started taking biotin for my hair and nails about 3 months ago. My granddaughter said it would help them grow stronger." Bingo! Biotin, that innocent little supplement you can buy at any drugstore, was completely interfering with her thyroid function tests. Here's the technical part made simple. Biotin uses the same binding proteins that many thyroid lab tests rely on for accurate readings. When you're taking high-dose biotin, and most hair/nail supplements contain massive amounts, it can make your thyroid hormones appear falsely elevated or suppressed. For someone focused on how to be a healthy, elderly person, this kind of interference can lead to medication changes that throw your entire system out of balance. What's particularly tricky about biotin interference is that it affects multiple tests simultaneously, not just thyroid function, but also certain cardiac markers, hormone levels, and even some vitamin measurements. Eleanor's case is textbook. She was aging healthily, her thyroid was functioning perfectly, but the biotin was creating lab chaos that could have led to serious overmedication. I see this pattern frequently with health-conscious seniors who are doing everything right, taking supplements for nutrition for the elderly, staying active, following medical advice, but unknowingly sabotaging their own health monitoring. The immune system in old age depends on stable hormone levels, and unnecessary thyroid medication adjustments can create a cascade of problems. The solution was elegantly simple. I had Eleanor stop her biotin supplement for 1 week before her next thyroid test, and her levels returned to the stable, healthy range they'd maintained for over a decade. Her hair and nails? Still gorgeous, because good nutrition for the elderly and proper hydration do far more for appearance than expensive supplements. Now she times her biotin intake carefully, stopping it a week before any lab work, and her thyroid management is back on track. She's maintained her autonomy as an elderly person by taking control of factors that were creating unnecessary medical complications. But here's what really concerns me about supplement interference. It's happening more frequently as seniors become more proactive about their health, which is wonderful, but they're not getting proper guidance about timing. Maintaining health in old age often means being strategic about when and how you take your supplements relative to medical testing. Eleanor now keeps a simple calendar noting when to pause certain supplements before lab work, and she's become an advocate in her Charleston Garden Club, teaching other women about this hidden pitfall. The irony is that our efforts toward youthfulness in the elderly can sometimes work against us if we don't understand the science behind the timing. And speaking of timing, there's one more crucial factor that can make the difference between accurate results and a completely wrong diagnosis. This final mistake nearly broke my heart because of how preventable it was. Frank, a 74-year-old retired factory worker from Detroit, Michigan, had been bouncing between doctors for 2 years, convinced he was losing his masculinity and vitality. His testosterone levels were consistently low, his cortisol appeared elevated, and he'd been prescribed hormone replacement therapy that made him feel worse, not better. Frank had worked the assembly line at Ford for 37 years, raised 4 kids, and maintained the kind of practical wisdom that comes from decades of hard work. But suddenly, he felt like his body was betraying him, and the treatments weren't helping him achieve the youthfulness in the elderly he desperately wanted to maintain. When Frank first walked into my office, I could see the defeat in his shoulders. "Dr. Harris," he said, "I used to feel strong, energetic, capable of anything. Now I feel like I'm fading away, and these hormones they gave me just make me feel jittery and weird." As we reviewed his lab history, I noticed something crucial. All of his hormone tests had been done in the afternoon, around 2 or 3 p.m., after his regular medical appointments. Here's what his previous doctors missed. Testosterone peaks in the early morning and gradually declines throughout the day. Cortisol follows the opposite pattern, highest in the morning, lowest at night. By testing Frank in the afternoon, they were measuring his hormones at their natural daily low point and mistaking normal circadian rhythm for hormone deficiency. The science behind circadian hormone rhythms is fascinating and critical for aging healthily. Your body operates on internal clocks that have been fine-tuned over millions of years of evolution. For men Frank's age, testosterone can be 30 to 50% higher at 8 a.m. compared to 3 p.m. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between normal levels and deficiency requiring treatment. Similarly, cortisol should be highest when you wake up to give you energy for the day, then gradually decrease. Testing cortisol in the afternoon can make normal, healthy patterns look like adrenal dysfunction. For someone focused on how to be a healthy, elderly person, getting these baseline measurements wrong can lead to treatments that actually interfere with maintaining health in old age. We retested Frank's hormones at 7:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and the results were remarkable. His testosterone levels were completely normal for his age, not the low levels that had prompted hormone therapy, but healthy numbers that indicated his body was functioning beautifully. His cortisol showed the perfect morning peak that signals good adrenal function and supports immunity in the elderly. Frank didn't need hormone replacement. He needed accurate testing that respected his body's natural rhythms. Within weeks of stopping the unnecessary treatments, his energy returned, his sleep improved, and he was back to his weekend projects, restoring classic Mustangs in his Detroit garage. True youthfulness in the elderly achieved by working with his body, not against it. The tragedy of Frank's case is how it represents a systemic problem in healthcare timing. So many seniors are getting hormone tests, cortisol assessments, and other time-sensitive labs at convenient appointment times rather than optimal testing times. This leads to false diagnoses that can trigger unnecessary treatments, affecting nutrition for the elderly, sleep patterns, and overall well-being. Frank now schedules his annual labs for early morning, and he's become an advocate for proper testing protocols among his retired Ford colleagues. His case taught me that maintaining autonomy as an elderly person sometimes means insisting on the right timing for your healthcare, not just accepting whatever appointment slot is available. When we respect the body's natural rhythms, we get the accurate information needed to support genuine health and vitality as we age. So there you have it, the 5 deadly mistakes that could be sabotaging your health every single time you walk into that lab. Margaret's near-death experience, Harold's dangerous hypoglycemic episode, Robert's false heart attack scare, Eleanor's thyroid medication chaos, and Frank's unnecessary hormone treatments. All of these could have been completely prevented with the knowledge you now possess. But here's the million-dollar question. What are you going to do with this life-changing information? Are you going to file it away in the back of your mind and continue making the same mistakes that are putting your health at risk? Or are you going to take control of your health destiny and ensure that every lab test you get from now on gives you and your doctor the accurate information you need to truly thrive in your golden years? Let me challenge you right now. When was the last time you questioned your lab preparation routine? How many medications are you currently taking based on results that might have been completely wrong? And here's the scary one. How many real health issues might be hiding behind false normal results because your preparation threw off the numbers? The truth is, maintaining health in old age and achieving true youthfulness in the elderly starts with getting accurate baseline information, and that's exactly what you now know how to do. I want you to take action immediately. Before your next lab appointment, create a simple checklist based on what you've learned today. Schedule your blood work for the optimal times, stop interfering supplements at the right intervals, avoid intense exercise before testing, follow fasting instructions to the letter, and make sure you're taking your medications as prescribed. Your immune system in old age depends on accurate monitoring, and your autonomy as an elderly person depends on making informed decisions based on reliable data. But don't stop there. Share this knowledge with your spouse, your friends, your family members who are also navigating the complex world of aging healthily. How many people in your life could benefit from understanding these critical mistakes? How many Margarets, Harolds, Roberts, Eleanors, and Franks could you help save from unnecessary treatments and dangerous misdiagnosis? The nutrition for the elderly and treatment plans that emerge from accurate testing could literally transform not just your life, but the lives of everyone you care about. Here's what I need you to do right now. If this information has opened your eyes to the hidden dangers in routine medical testing, if you're committed to taking control of your health journey and ensuring you get accurate results that support your longevity and vitality, then subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because what you've learned today is just the beginning of a much larger conversation about how to navigate healthcare as a senior without falling victim to the system's blind spots. There are dozens more critical health insights that could save your life, extend your healthy years, and help you maintain the independence and quality of life you deserve. Don't let this be just another video you watched. Make it the turning point where you decided to become an informed advocate for your own health. Your future self will thank you for taking action today. So tell me in the comments, which of these 5 mistakes have you been making? And what's the first change you're going to implement before your next lab test? I read every comment, and your story might just help save someone else's life.